you know, I've started a little something new here called Put Your Stinger Up. So I'm going to have you help me here in putting your stinger up. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. We're going to say, go Hornets, and put our stinger up. You ready? All right. 1, 2, 3. Go Hornets! You guys are good. Much brighter than you told me earlier, Ryan. So it's a really good group. Well, on behalf of everyone here, are you enjoying your homecoming weekend? I hope you are. Give yourself a round of applause.
I have the privilege tonight to speak on behalf of our current student athletes and coaches at Emporia State. And I will tell you that there are so many remarkable things about John Baxter, but one of the most remarkable is that his message resonates across generations. That he can get, I see people that played here 40 years ago, and yet kids of today, they still respect what he does, what he stands for. It is just, I think that's a talent, John, that I've really never seen before. I was listening to KBOE the other day, as I always do, and John was a guest on a show, and he talked about Gus Fish and how Gus, when John first arrived, kind of showed him the ropes and maybe talked to him a little bit about the history of Emporia State and the lay of the land, so to speak. And I will tell you, I've been here 13.5 years, and in the first year I got here, it was August of '99, and the first year is kind of a blur, and you're kind of wondering who's saying what, what's going on, and John was a person that I found that I could talk to about anything, and he listened to me, and we talked about everything from coaches to presidents and administration and student athletes, and it wasn't anything about training. But he taught me more than he'll ever know. We're sitting out up there, standing out along the fence at Trustman, watching baseball, and we had such wonderful conversations, and we still do. We still do. I saw the other day, you saw a slide, John's still in the training room, and he's still making that impact that he made on so many people over 46 years. So on behalf of all of us, John, congratulations to you. Thank you for everything that you've done, and I will tell you, I'm looking forward to more talks with you next spring. Thank you.
And I think that's what all of us appreciated about it, was straightforward all the time with him. My experience as a student athlete, it's amazing how he cared for each and every one of us. Coached here, and John had an amazing ability to get, in all of my coaching, I've never been around a trainer who had the ability to put an athlete back on the field faster than he could and have the kid be safe. I mean, to have the knowledge, the alertness, the fortitude, as coach, we cannot afford to have a guy not able to play. And he's the most amazing I've ever been around in getting an athlete back on the field. And it impacted our team every time. There was always a player every year that he put out there that made a difference for us. And that took a lot of guts at times, because obviously there were times that he would put himself at a risk, in my mind, to get a kid back for us. But he was always right. He never missed. There was one kid that I was around that was ever put at risk because of anything. John had him on the field at the right time and healthy. And what a difference it made. I think that, obviously the relationship with our players was incredible. And, that every coach hates the training room because it can become a place where people hang out. And John had an amazing ability to get the kids in there that belonged in there and get the ones out that didn't belong in there. And I can remember a couple times he'd say, hey, you need to make a visit to the training room. It's getting a little heavy in there. You need to get some of these guys out of there. And he just had that obvious alertness in what he did. John was is a great friend. I remember as a student athlete that he used to always run with Slaymaker or Smitheran, and never could figure out what they were doing. And I finally realized after, Jack was gone and Ron Ron and I would run with him, and some days Slaymaker wouldn't run with us, and that would be the day that he tried to get me squared away. And I finally figured out that his ability to handle coaches, to get them to do the right thing, was incredible. And he made a big difference for me, coaching-wise, because he took the time to tell me what I needed to hear. And there was never a guy in my coaching career after him that would ever do it, and I missed it. He was phenomenal at it. His timing was amazing. And I noticed that I probably ran with him more than anybody else. Finally figured out I was a slow learner. He had to keep beating on me day after day until I finally figured out what was right. John, I appreciate all that. You know, I talked to John about something today that was, I was a little concerned about. Last night I got a text at 10:55 from some guys and coaches. And they told me John was there at 10:55. Well, at 8 o'clock this morning, we had a Hall of Honor breakfast. We're all there. His name got called out like 2 or 3 times. He was not there. And John, you remember that you told us so many times, if you're going to, and I'll never get this right, you'll have to tell it, but if you're going to fly with the Eagles, well, you'll never fly with the Eagles if you're going to soar with the Owls. I knew I'd screw it up. So John, come on now. I know you're out late last night, had a few too many, couldn't make this one day to fly. Well, that's plenty for me. John, I appreciate everything. You don't know how much it meant to be around you and to have you affect my life. And I think I'm deeply indebted to you. Appreciate it.
I came here on football scholarship. I got hurt in '68. And John pulled me aside and said, Lonnie boy, I'm going to save your life. You're going to come to work in the training room. And that's when I started my career as an athletic trainer. I learned a lot from John the first semester I was there. I had 2 jobs. One was to mop the floor, and the other one was to hold the umbrella over him in the training room when it was raining. I asked John once, how long am I going to have to do this? He said, until I tell you to stop. He was a man of few words in those days. John is one of those few that you never forget. He's hard to find anybody like him, and there are very, very few in between. I can tell you a lot of stories about John. Most of them are funny. All of them are true. I'm not going to go there tonight either. I probably am the only student athletic trainer that John ever had that was also his roommate. He and I and Jack Smitheran lived together for 1.5 years. So I know most of the things about John that he wants nobody else to know. With that said, I want to take it in a little bit different direction now. If you will recall and remember back, there's a movie that Jimmy Stewart starred in called It's a Wonderful Life. John is George Bailey of our time. He's touched everybody in this room, countless athletes, countless students. Everybody that's gone through the doors at ESU knows John Baxter, especially the athletes. John is committed to the life of the athletes. He's committed to education. And his commitment to ESU has been unfounded by anybody since, and probably from here on. He's the only guy that I know of that would go out of his way on Saturdays and Sunday mornings to come in and make sure that the athletes got taken care of at this university. He had a vision in '67, '68, someplace back in those early years, of having a world-class training room. That was always John's dream, was to have the facility at ESU that he needed to treat the athletes the way they should be treated, and to train students the way that they should be treated and trained. And that has come to fruition. John has a state-of-the-art training room now. It was his dream. He made it happen. And I think the people of Emporia State have gained from the benefit of John's hard work and all of his dreams that have taken place in the last 46 years. I owe most of my professional career to John Baxter. He was my mentor, he's my friend, and I love him. And I want to wish him the best of luck from here on out. And I was hoping this wouldn't happen, but when you got a guy like John, it's hard to think about it. But Johnny boy, best of luck to you. I know you'll do well. Keep trucking, buddy. With that, thanks, John. We love you.
John, I certainly want to thank you for your years of service to 5 university presidents. Bingham, you count presidents that you took care of your baseball. Several deans, division chairs, athletic directors, and many men and women coaches, as well as assistant athletic trainers. It takes a very special person to do that in a positive and effective manner. Thanks for equipping the training room with the units that have made it so usable and effective. When we moved from the old building, located where the library now stands, to the new building, it had been built without equipment being included in the contract. We were able to receive special funding from the state, which was very limited. Your budget for equipment, very small, but with considerable work, knowledge, and foresight, you made the facility very functional. Thanks for the contributions you made to the division by serving on committees and projects. The Professional Preparation Athletic Training Program is a result of your ideas. Your leadership, expertise, and many hours of hard work brought the program to reality. It is one of the few programs in this region. Thanks for the outstanding athletic training service you provided to ESU athletes, faculty, and staff, and to the Emporia community and surrounding area. Emporia Public Schools and countywide athletes have benefited from your generosity of time and expertise. Your work week was always over 100 hours. Thanks for the contributions you have made to the university and community. You have smelled the aroma of the training room. It's now time to smell the roses. Thanks, most of all, for being John Baxter.
You know, John was an example. I think my children will attest to this, that I believed in tough love, and John showed me tough love on several occasions. I think it was 3 months into my freshman year before I realized that a foot sticking out of my posterior wasn't really an anatomy that I was supposed to have. He made sure, Bing forgot to tell him that he just tore those rules off the wall and said there'll be one, I guess you did say, just be one rule, and that's my rule. So I found out that was the way to do it when he ran around Baxter. People ask me why I got involved in this. I said, it's just the right thing to do. I mean, I'm real selfish in getting all our alumni together for us to come back and see old faces again. I want to thank everybody in this room for what you've done and get involved in this. And when we sat down with the administration and talked about, we wanted to give John and Pam something. We wanted to send them someplace, buy them something, and John was emphatic. I don't want it. I want it going to the kids. And finally, he begrudgingly agreed that we were going to give him something because it helped us, made us feel good. So, as you know, we got him a voice-activated computer, and all the rest of the money will go on to benefit the student athletic trainer scholarships at Emporia State University, and we'll give you those totals in the end. I think that's John also. And you won't be able to get any more emails from Foxy, so you don't have to worry about that anymore. You're getting all your messages. They wanted me to do a little thing with decades at this time to see what kind of representation we have here. And I had a few people talk to me earlier I thought was very, very interesting. Before we get involved with that, I've been told that there's several people here that have not been here since they graduated, but came specifically for John. If you people would stand up real quick and just give us a Come on, stand, there you are. That's amazing. Years span 40 to 50 years. Also asked me to go a decade. John started here in 1966. Could we get a stand of people that were either athletes, trainers, or involved in Emporia State before the 60s? Would you stand up that are here to recognize John? Okay, there we go. Now my group, or close to my group, I expanded a couple in the 1960s. How many people we have here from the 60s? Stand up. 1970s? Wow. 80s? I think we'll just lump the 2000s to 2012 in one group. How about the rest of it? John, you know how we all feel about you. We love you, and they're in a more deserving person than what you're getting tonight. And enjoy the rest of the evening. Thanks, bud.
I said I should go back to when I first encountered John. I was the coach of everything at Roosevelt High School in the 60s, and I was in my last year at Roosevelt High School when John arrived. So my first encounter with him was leaning on him for all my athletes, of which I see one right there in the second row. Probably had some aches and pains, and I could find my way across campus to see that they were taken care of. And early in John's career, he was saddled with that kind of thing. Somewhere along the line, and we saw pictures in the video that was up there, somewhere along the line, and I think it was from 66 to 69 or 70, help me out, John, where in the world did you put on all that weight? and what was it, living with these baseball guys, or Lonnie, I don't know. You know Lonnie, when he put on all that weight?
Sometime after I came.
I'm telling you what, there was one glimpse of John Baxter when he was a little heavier. I've got a better picture when he was really heavier. I think it's out at, there's one out at Coach's, there's one down at the Antique Mall. But John took a great deal of, well, the Antique Mall, I mean, he's antique. That's not what I was saying. I would not I'll say that to you, but you know, I would have roasted you just a little bit this morning if you'd have been here, but I did hear you were out late drinking. And that's why you weren't here this morning. I was simply going to say that no one could really chew on your butt because you have no butt. It's like all of us older guys. We kind of lose our butt somewhere along the line, and you certainly have lost yours. You know, I don't know how I got this, but I intercepted a letter. I have not opened it. The return address is the White House, Washington, D.C., and it's to John Doc Baxter. They just misspelled it. I didn't say with a D in there. I didn't say bastard. I said Baxter. And anyway, I'm going to open it, and we're going to see what the president had to say. Well, they're consistent. Dear Doc Baxter. Congratulations on your 62 years or so. You haven't been here 62 years. I don't know where they got that. Anyway, 62 years of painful service to Emporia State University. Hopefully it wasn't painful. And for your contributions to adding to the ignorance of many students that you taught. I think they mean to say that you stamped out ignorance in there somewhere, and that they are eternally grateful. We have done some research on your professional life. Way to go on adding to the misery of the many administrators with which you work with. Boy, didn't we get on them during those runs, John? Oh, right, Bang? Yes, we could solve a lot of problems we had here. You work in the use of medical marijuana with the football teams of the late 60s and early 70s. Is worthy of a Pulitzer Prize. There are some 60s and 70s here. Most of them turned out okay in spite of your work, John. Sorry. Your work with steroids has resulted in some world records, and thank you for that. Oh my, you guys getting a little personal here. After 6 marriages, you haven't been married 6 times. After 6 marriages, we understand you have found the love of your life in Pam. That is so wonderful. And your kids, Josh and Rachel, have both turned out so well. Nice going. They only made one, John Baxter. You are an inspiration to all of us. Sincerely, Barack Obama. Well, John, I'm going to take it a little bit different slant. I'm like being, gosh, those runs were such good therapy. And, you know, that title doc you got is, what are you, a psychiatrist and a medical doctor and an osteopath and a chiropractor and a dentist and an optometrist, and you're a little bit gynecologist, but a little bit of all those. Those sessions we had did not go unnoticed. I think it got me as a young, thought I knew it all coach to, as I grew older and realized I didn't, that you were an inspiration in my growth as a person, as a coach. And I do appreciate that. I'm involved in the Lyon County League now, as a commissioner of the Lyon County League. And I brought it up at our administrators meeting last week. Were they aware of literally 1,000 or more young athletes in this county and the surrounding schools that you have counseled, that you have treated, that you have given all kinds of advice to them and their parents? I brought it up because I wasn't sure those administrators knew. And I think I convinced them. They even forked over a little money to your scholarship fund. So I must have convinced them that you were a really important cog in the way the athletic programs around this county, around this area have operated. And I sincerely do think that they appreciated that. And I've observed that all of these years. And I thank you for all of them, for all of your service. It's a different day today. You probably couldn't do all of that you did at one time. But you did it, and it was meaningful. I thank you. And then the last thing is, for me and a lot of other faculty and community people and people like that, that you've also taken your time to probably counsel us, treat us many times. I guarantee you, my little old body got beat up a lot, and John was always there to take care of it. And he hit all of those doctors with me, and certainly part of that psychiatry, I'm sure, because there's times coaches need that. I see Larry Kramer back there. He's helped you on the occasionally, Larry? Yeah. Yep, he sure has. Yeah, he's helped us all. And just simply, what, Larry?
God's a good guy.
A good guy?
Yeah. Remember that.
Okay. You got that, Doc?
Yes, sir.
Larry said you're a good guy. In spite of what some people have told us, you're a good guy. Anyway, John, on a very serious note, thank you. You are one of a kind, and I don't know, we never find the mold that's probably been broken, but you got a lot of good years left. You got your good woman there. You got kids, you got good grandkids, and a heck of a lot of friends. Thanks, John.
I came to Emporia State backtracking a little bit as a 25-year-old head coach, and I packed up my stuff in a leaf basket and a 21-inch TV, got in a car, and took off for Emporia, Kansas. I didn't know where Emporia was. I didn't know where Kansas was. I'd never been past Albuquerque, New Mexico. So coming into the turnpike, or on the turnpike, and it's 8 miles, 10 miles, 8 miles, 2 miles, and I'm looking, where is the town? There's a Howard Johnson's out in the middle of the freeway, and there was no lights, it was just darker now. And I'm going, what have I done? Where am I going? And the next day, George Milton got a hold of me, and it was just before school was starting. I took the job real late. I figured if I was going to get a head start on coaching and become a head coach, I should take this job. Larry Cochelle recommended me, but George Milton got me a home on Garfield and 6th in a basement. Mrs. Helen Smith, and a wonderful lady. But it was a prime spot because across the street was a liquor store, and the other side was a bowling alley. So I thought I was going to be in pretty good shape. I had the best of all worlds. And then I was part of a group that came in. There was Scott Crutchmeyer and the Harpers and Trotters and all kinds of football coaches. There's a big turnover in the athletic competing department that I was part of. I was the only difference about me, I was the only bachelor. So I had to rely on these guys who were all married to kind of help me out and kind of take me under their wings and whatnot. And of course, one of the first people that took me under their wing was John Baxter. And one day he pulled me over the side and he says, I'm going to give you a few words of wisdom here. And I go, great, okay. I said, well, maybe he's going to tell me about Gus Pennington or Jim Fuller, or, you know, how do you deal with Tidwell, and, you know, how do you deal with Joe Pease and Kay Wood and all these guys? I got no clue. I'm 25. I've never even been in a classroom. I got people in my classroom that are older than me. And I'm scared to death. And so John looks at me and he says, don't go to the Rock Castle. And my reply was, what's the Rock Castle? He says, that's where all your players are. And it's a bar. Oh, great. Oh, this is good. And so he begins to turn away, and he comes back and he says, you need the bourbon barrel. So this is on a Wednesday, so Friday night, you know, big night in Emporia. I splash on some English leather. I'm gonna find a check or two down in a commercial, and I'm going out looking for the bourbon barrel. So I go down commercial, my first night or second night here, looking for the bourbon barrel in my car. And I go up to the railroad tracks, can't find it, come back. Took me about 45 minutes, back and forth. Commercial's not that long. It's not the 405 freeway, California. And so here I was up and down, 45 minutes later, I just happened to look down. It's in the hole of the building. One of ours in a basement. So I finally parked the car, go in, and thinking it's going to be a big night, and there's nobody there. The bartender's around the corner. I'm the only guy in the place. I thought this was going to be a chick having place, you know. I think. And so he finally comes out around the corner and says, "What do you have?" And I said, "I'll take rum and Coke," and he takes off, comes back, and slams down on the drink. And that'll be $3.50, and so I give a $1.50 tip, $5. Start drinking it. I go. I said, "I think you forgot the rum." He says, "Well, you're supposed to bring that." I'm from California, this is all news. And plus, guy told me for a card to be a member here. If I'm the only guy who have a card here, I'm definitely not joining here. So that was the first bit of influence that John had on me. And then a few weeks later, he pulls me aside, you're by myself, kind of lonely, and he looks at me. He said, "You got a TV, right?" And I go, "Yeah." He said, "Old Milwaukee." I go, "Old Milwaukee? We got some kind of geography lesson here, or what, what's going on?" And he says, "No, it's a beer, you idiot." He said, "It's a six-pack for $1.44. You can't go wrong. A TV with a six-pack of Old Milwaukee, it's a night." And I go, "Oh boy, this is really going to be a lot of fun." And then during our time, we had so much fun. On Sundays, we would come in. John taught me how to correct papers, and we'd come in on Sundays, do our laundry, come in on Sundays. It was a big day. Maybe wash the car. I didn't get real good reception on my TV in the basement. So he practiced his imitation of Gus Fish.
He's from California.
And so John would spend hours working on an imitation of Gus Fish. Well, you got to get in on this, Smitheran, if you want to be one of the guys. And of course, Gus had an office right down the hall from me, and he was, moving carpets hard to death. I learned that at coach. And so we practiced imitating Gus Fish. And why? I have no idea. But John was into it, and he was my mentor, so I kind of went along with it. So every time, even when we call now, I call him from California, or he calls, it's always, "Hey, Jackie boy." And if you knew Gus, Gus had a few cigarettes in his day, and I think a little whiskey in his day, and he had that real gravelly, distinct voice, and John picked up on that very easily. And then, of course, I lived with Lonnie and John in an apartment on West Street. It was really a luxury place. I don't even know if we had a couch, but I'm from California. Roughing it for me is a Motel 6. And, Lonnie, he's a fisherman. He's a hunter. He kills things and all that kind of stuff. Actually, was out doing kind of stuff. So they got into this thing at around midnight. And you'll remember, he had I don't know why you would have a recording of ducks on a 33 RPM record. I have no idea. I don't think that would do well in a blind. I don't see how that happens. That's going to happen. But And I had nothing to do with this, believe me. And he and John would put the recorder, or the phonograph player on the windowsill, open up the window, and about midnight, turn on the duck call in our apartment complex. And about midnight, all the lights were out. And of course, when all the lights went on, and then somebody came outside, they shut it down. And they laughed like balloons, you know? And so it was pretty funny to a point, and then this happened 2 or 3 times, and then at the last time, 2 guys came out with a shotgun, and we decided we better stop. But I think Dave Bingham said it most about John, and about him being a trainer. I went to the University of California from here. Just to give you an idea, of course, the University of California has a great reputation academically, and I had a trainer there who we found out 20 years later was not even certified. And he had a broken diathermy machine that had been broken for 20 years in treating athletes. And that just goes to show you what a situation I had coming from here, where John, like Bing said, he knew the difference between a kid being injured and a kid being hurt. And if he was injured, that was a different scenario than a kid being hurt. We're all hurt at some time. There's a pull, there's a bruise, there's a cut, there's whatever. But he also recognized the idea, the realization when a kid was really injured. And he never placed a kid at risk because of that injury. He always erred on the side of caution, and yet at the same time, he was, as Bing said, the very best at getting somebody back on the field. I mean, he created, I wish I could have taken him to California. I could have still be coaching if I still had him. I could have won some games. But I'll just give you an idea. In 1970, John came up to me in September, just as school was starting, and said, Bill Cowan came up to me and told me that he's got a bad shoulder. And this is 1970. I mean, we don't even know what a rotator cuff is. I didn't know. Impingements and all this stuff, MRIs and all that kind of stuff. Had no idea that stuff. But John Baxter must have. And he came up to me and he said, if you don't pitch him in the fall, I'll have him ready for you when the season rolls around. And as my players will attest, I'm crazy, but not stupid. And I said, well, if that's the case, I know Bill Cowan makes me a lot better coach. So I said, take him. We'll hopefully get him back before the season starts. And basically, he took over Bill Cowan's rehabilitation. He did come the first day of practice. He went 11-1, never missed a start, led both divisions, large schools, small schools, in strikeouts with 174, first team All-American. And that was the kind of magic that Doc could do. He could literally pull rabbits out of hats. And I'll never be able to say how thankful I am to him for all he did for us. Also, like we were saying, psychology, he tells you some things that you didn't want to hear, and that's a true friend. I had a guy named Brian McEldowney. See, Brian played for me at Arizona State, and one of the reasons I took the job here was to get away from him. And I get off a plane in Kansas City, and here's Brian McEldowney. What are you doing here? I'm going to Emporia State. Oh my God, you guys are kidding me. I said, you're stalking me. You're like the plague. You're everywhere, right? So anyway, Brian and I decided we could peacefully coexist, and but not really. And I kicked him off the team maybe 4 or 5 times. The first time, he lost a ball game someplace, getting on the bus, he's laughing. You're out of here. You're done. Get out. So I kicked him off. Next day, here comes Baxter. Jack, Brian's a good guy. He's a good kid. He's probably he's a right-handed pitcher, but he should have been a left-handed. Should have been. He just got a good roll with the punch. I said, okay, let him back on, tell him to show up. That's okay. About 2 months later, we're in a playoff game, and he feels the ball between his legs. Ball hit right back at him. And he looks over the dugout, and he turns his hat, and he looks at me, he turns his hat and goes, and he throws the guy out first base. He comes in the dugout, you're done. You're kicked off the team, I don't want to see you. And here comes Baxter. Yeah, he's a nice kid. You know, get him, you know, so, okay, getting back on the team. Then he's throwing a bullpen the next year. Mike Fox, I think, is catching him. And it's like everything goes in slow motion. And he was throwing a bullpen, and he was down there, and I was down here. I was talking to somebody, and he uncorked one, and I know it's going to hit me. I just know it. And sure enough, it hits me in the ankle, and, you know, I'm grinning and bearing it, you know, and of course all the players are giving high fives. Nice going, Brian. And of course I kicked him off at that point. And then of course, here comes John again, you know, he's really a good kid. You know, I said, I'm getting kind of tired of it. And then the last year, the last story when I kicked him off for probably the last time, it was the last year I was here, he was here, and it was before fall ball, and he pulled me over the bullpen, and he said, I got a new pitch, and I went over there, and he's throwing a new pitch, and it was about 90-mile-an-hour fastball, and the ball, you know, dropping at the plate about 2 feet. I go, geez, that's pretty good. He said, yeah, it's a spitter. I go, oh. Here we go, McElwain, it's a spitter. He says, yeah, well, you know, spitter, you know, you can use spit. Some people use pine tar, you use Vaseline, there's all kinds of substances that you cheat with. I said, Brian, that's cheating. You really shouldn't do that. He says, yeah, but man, I can really throw this thing. I'll get a lot of people out. I said, well, you know, if they catch you, they kick you out of the ballgame. You know, how are you going to hide it? And he looks at me and he says, well, I'm going to hide it between my legs. No umpire's going to look there. But John has been a treasure for me. I mean, he's helped me in my career. Like I said, sometimes I didn't like hearing what he had to say, but it was the truth. It was to help me and the people around me. And he's been a true friend over the years. Even though we've been 1,500 miles apart, he's always been one of my best friends. And he is, obviously, when you have one event like this and this many people show up, he's touched a lot of people's lives. And he certainly touched mine, and I couldn't have been luckier to have him as a trainer, but even luckier to have him as a friend. John, thank you.
Well, as you guys know, my real name is Blaise Kriley, but mostly everybody here knows me as the guy replacing Baxter. So I go by either or. So, well, on the way back from a hard win at Southwest Baptist, I had on my mind, I'm supposed to talk at this thing tonight, and I wasn't quite sure what to say. So I was thinking, and the question came to my mind on, you know, John, you've been here for 46 years, been through so many things, touched so many people's lives, you're a legend. And somehow I got myself into a pickle where I've got to replace a legend. So, here are a few ways that I think, and I hope, that I can fill your shoes. The first one is keeping in mind that John's #1 priority was keeping the student athlete healthy and protecting them. All the coaches here have already re-emphasized that point, you know. There's a difference between being injured and being hurt. John, you knew it. And you knew that if a kid was hurt, you could probably get that guy back on the field. But if a kid was injured, you really needed to protect them. So he kept this through his whole athletic training career, even when I came in 2005 as an athletic training student, and worked with him until 2009. And then when I came back after a year of grad school in 2010, you know, nothing had changed. It was the same ideal with different kids. And this just allows you to be, you know, one of the best athletic trainers there is. The second thing that I realized, and this is after how many times after practice just talking to you about people you knew or things you had seen, is that I think some people fail to see just how brilliant of an educator John was during all of his years at Emporia State. he started an excellent athletic training program at Emporia State University in 1999. It was in 1999, 1998. Before that, they had all the graduate students and students that went on to become athletic trainers. Emporia State has athletic training alumni at the collegiate level, professional sports, the NFL, Major League Baseball, high schools across the country, and the clinical setting. And there's even more athletic training students that didn't even become athletic trainers. They went on and found success in other careers. But I think all of them can even say that they learned a lot of how to become successful from John. John didn't just teach athletic training classes. He taught anatomy and physiology, exercise physiology, and special education classes. It wasn't just in one spectrum of education, it was across the board. The next thing I realized, and again, this is just, after listening to everybody else talk, don't do the minimum. John never did the minimum. He was always a guy that did everything he could to help people. Always doing more than he asked. He spent several years, promoting the athletic training field by hosting athletic training camps with Kramer, being part of the Board of Certification Exam Testing Committee back in the day. And then, as most of us here, myself included, at some point, a lot of us had a chance to get the scholarship he funded by himself to help out with the job of athletic training, taking care of kids here at Emporia State University. Beyond that, he was always open to give advice to students. I can remember several times when I came back in 2010. I looked at John, and he looked at me and was like, "John, I have no idea what to do." And he just looked at me and goes, "You'll figure it out," and then give me a hint or two to find my way. And I was able to figure it out from there. And then the other thing is that he spent several years, again, helping area teams and student athletes that didn't have a chance to get medical care at their high schools. John can tell several stories of people that he's seen over the years from the local area that have come in, and he's been able to help out and treat and care and give medical direction to, that anywhere else would not have had that opportunity. And I think the final thing that I can think of when trying to fulfill your shoes, John, is to take what you've built, and hopefully one day I can say that I was able to help make it better. We've all heard the stories tonight about when John first came here. He was staffed under the bleachers at Welch Stadium. One of his favorite stories is telling about whenever he was in there, he'd turn the lights off and the floor would start moving. And so, between the floor moving, the water leaking, and it being the hottest place on earth, he was able to take care of all those kids for 30 years. We now have an athletic training program with 2 athletic training facilities, an ATEP program with an elite recognition. Many people that I talked to when I was out looking for jobs, I was able to mention, I went to Emporia State. "Oh, well, you know Baxter." I go, "Well, yeah, he's my teacher, he's my mentor." And they go, "Oh, well, you just didn't go to school. You went to a place where you're going to get a job." And I think right there is something that emulates what John stands for, especially as an educator. That, just by having John endorse my name, it just led to so many doors in the athletic training profession. So, and then in no way is there more respect in the athletic training community for John. You talk to anybody in the athletic training field, and you mention John, they have nothing but the highest praises to say about John and everything he's done over his time as an athletic training career. John, you are so many things to this university. You were my first boss. You're a mentor to almost probably everybody in here at some point of their lives. You're a role model. And lastly, and probably most importantly to me, you're a friend. And again, I think that really shows here, and that you have so many people that have come back to support you after everything you've done for this university. So John, again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for everything you've done for me, and I only hope that I can carry on your legacy to fulfill everybody's dreams here and to take care of people the way that you were able to take care of them for 46 years. Thank you.
You know, this is the largest single gathering in homecoming history. I want to give you some totals, and again, this is with everybody's help, and I really appreciate what you've done. Coach's Restaurant donated a portion of their business from last night and tonight was around, and with the t-shirt sales, was around $700 to add to the fund. And if you're interested in t-shirts down the road, we'll keep those open until October 31st. Just email me and we'll send you a form. Tonight's silent auction raised $2,715. We started this project October last year. Lonnie and I opened a fund at Emporia State Bank in February. And people were asked to either give to that fund or you could donate to John's scholarship fund through the foundation. During that time, the foundation has received $1,400 in scholarship donations. And the fund at Emporia State Bank raised $14,000. We have a total for you, John, for $18,165.
On behalf of Emporia State University, it's our pleasure to honor John Baxter, a man who has left a positive impression on Emporia State that will never, ever be forgotten. Doc's passion for kids, dedication to both academics and athletics is extraordinary. At this time, it is my honor to announce that our athletic training rooms will, now and forever, be officially renamed the John Baxter Sports Medicine Center.
I've been flabbergasted by the whole thing, right from the start. When Mike Fox and Lonnie Clark first talked to me about it, I thought, well, you know, we'll be lucky to get 50 to 100 people in that thing. Unless they're all millionaires, we're not going to collect much damn money. So it's a great reward. The whole scholarship thing is so important. And we have these youngsters that work for us that come into our athletic training education program, and they're required to put in some, it's called intern hours in the athletic training room. And that's the time that a lot of those students can go out and have a job, probably a minimum wage job or something like that, that helps with college education. But the scholarship allows some of those students not to have to take that job, and allows them to get through their education without having to borrow a lot of money. The scholarship program is extremely important to us. I think it's extremely important to the athletic training program. You listen to Blaise Kriley. He's one of the individuals who's going to be in charge of funding that. He's not going to, Blaise, you're not going to fund it. You got to remember, Slaymaker has me in his antique store, so. Any of you want to see a picture of Fat John Baxter, that's what Blaise. But I was always disappointed in that. Around the time that picture was taken, I weighed myself, and at the time I weighed about 197 pounds or something like that, which is, you know, it's a lot of lead for a short guy like me. But I decided I better lose some weight and start running. But different people. Dave Bingham talked about our episodes running. Slaymaker talked about them. They were like therapy sessions for all of us. We used to try and solve all the problems that we could solve as quickly as we could. They were very easy, frank discussions. They talked about their professional growth. I had a lot of professional growth in those also, because we were always very honest with each other, indicating what we should and shouldn't be doing and how to try and get along with people. The main goal we all of us had that were in those running groups was the goodwill of the students and to take care of them and move them on to whatever their next step was. And in athletic training, that's what we really try to do. We're not just an educational program. We're a program that literally gives you the academic work, and then we bring into our athletic training rooms and we give you that famous OJT, on-the-job training. Right now, we have 2 crews, student trainers working in our training rooms. They're mostly upper division students, and it's amazing to watch those kids as they come in and work and master the skills that they have to master, do the basic athletic training things, and then learn the skills that they have to do to evaluate injuries, rehabilitate injuries, or whatever. And I can assure you, the program's in great shape with Blaise, Kriley in charge of the men's athletic program, and Leslie Kennedy in charge of the women's program. These students are all assigned projects, rehabilitation projects, evaluation projects, whatever. They're all scrutinized by those 2 individuals. They're active athletic trainers. And it means so much to those students to be able to step out of the training room and be able to walk in a training room anywhere in the country and be able to do what athletic trainers are supposed to do. And as Blaise pointed out, concern I had from the time I started, I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I got out of high school, but I knew there was a couple things I didn't want to do. One, I didn't want to get drafted in the Army. I don't know why. I think you saw in the video there, my daughter was telling me it was on the video. They said they had showed a picture of my father's restaurant and saloon. And my father was one of those individuals that believed, he had to teach his kids how to do something. And his idea was, if you can't do anything else, you can run a restaurant or a saloon. So we all worked in there. And I thought over the years, where did I develop these characteristics some people seem to indicate I have? Where did I develop them? Well, my dad was a very easygoing guy, great line of Lonnie. He could always talk, he could talk to anybody, anytime. And I picked up on that. One of his emphasis was always, the customer's always right. Even if they're wrong, they're still right. You figure out a way to make it right and do whatever you need to do without just getting completely taken in by the whole thing. What really amazed me about my father was he grew up on a farm in South Dakota. And he would always tell us, well, there's one thing I didn't want to do, that I didn't want to be a farmer. They work too hard. He goes in and runs his own restaurant. And I remember years working for him. I'd go in at 8 in the morning and do what we had to do in the morning to get the various meals set up, and then get home sometimes 2 in the morning. And I thought, boy, I don't know, I don't think he worked that hard on the farm. He just started. But I think a lot of the personality traits that I have in terms of learning how to get along with people, I really got from my parents, because they were both in the business and very amiable people, and always tried to help their employees and anybody else that needed help. And I always appreciated that. Well, let's see, my brother, I think it was Jim. My brother Jim's here. I think he and I we were on the draft list one time, and I had 1 semester left to finish college, and I think Jim was just trying to get out going at that time. He'd wait to join the National Guard or something. But anyway, we went in to see this gentleman. It was some kind of an official with the draft, and went in and introduced ourselves, and we started talking to him, and he says, "Are you related to Robert Baxter by any chance?" We both said, "Yes, we are." Well, he looked at me and he says, "Well, you have 1 semester left of school. You're definitely going to do that. I know your dad wants you to do that." And I think Jim got his way laid long enough so he could get some other branch of the service before he got drafted into the old Army. I was so lucky, I just waited until I graduated from college and got drafted in the Army. I felt I was more mature at that time. Definitely learned a few things there real quick. Probably the most important ones I often tell students: keep your eyes and ears open, your mouth shut. And I learned that after I chuckled one day at a drill sergeant who was teaching us how to march. He told us to march the way the U.S. Army wants you to march, put your left feet forward first. And like a dummy, I kind of giggled. But about 5,000 push-ups later, probably that wasn't a good thing to do. You gotta just keep your mouth shut, keep a sober face, and don't say anything, no matter what the occasion happens to be. I don't want to I don't want to keep you any longer, so I know how long you've been here, and these talks kind of wear you out. It's good to have people like a Slaymaker that can come up and put a little comedy in this whole thing and make it meaningful, although most of them are lies. I actually came by that name, quite honestly. I'm from New Mexico, and I taught the schools I taught in were largely Hispanic schools, and a lot of the individuals who were going there, the main language their parents spoke at home was Spanish, and there's really not an S in the Spanish language, so they really couldn't pronounce that X, and they used to call me Coach Baxter. And then kind of giggle. You know, so I always just kept a sober face and kept going. So Slaymaker didn't shock me with that. I know he was trying, but it didn't work. But since I've been here, I've had a great relationship with the coaches we've had here. They've been great people. As all of you that follow Emporia State athletics, you know we've had some really outstanding coaches and outstanding people, and you can gauge that by the success these individuals have had. You look around the room and look at each other, the successes you've had, you gained a lot of that on the athletic fields and the behavior that you were taught here by the various coaches. You've always been good open relationships with them, and I think you owe your appreciation to them as well as the compliments you might give me, because our goal was to try to get you to be a productive citizen. And if we did that, we did our job. And in the process, if we taught you how to do something to make some money at it, good. If we taught you something to make a lot of money, give us a John Baxter Athletic Training Scholarship. On that one, we have a number of athletic training students that returned from this event. I really appreciate what they've done for us. You know, like I indicated today, Blaise has a group of kids that are upper division students, like most of these were at one time. We literally just kind of turned the place over to them, just kind of oversee them. And I deeply appreciate the efforts that those people put into the university while they were here, and I appreciate the support they continue to give us. That's been much appreciated. They do send us students, and they send us qualified students that will succeed in our programs. And I want to thank those individuals in particular. The last person I need to thank, I need to give appreciation to is Emily. She was nervous apparently about giving the invocation, and I thought that was pretty good. She did a nice job, and I appreciated that. So now we know she can pray. We know if all else fails, she can get by the table side there and probably bring something. I don't want to keep you any longer because I know you all have things to do. Incidentally, I did dissipate a little bit the other night. My wife is here, Pam. She took me out last night and just wouldn't let me go home. I don't know what the reason was that for. And when I felt somebody shaking me this morning, what's going on, she said, "You know what time it is?" And I said, "I have no idea." Anyway, we got moved a little late today, and I missed the honors banquet, which is the first time I missed that in a long time. I'm sorry for that, because I know Slaymaker probably would have had a good time with me there. You know, the thing is, you think about Slaymaker and all the things he MCs, when are they going to turn that stuff over to some guy like me? Well, with that, I think the best thing I can do is thank all of you for coming once again. I really appreciate it. I thoroughly enjoyed shaking the hands of the people who have come and introduced themselves. Just keep in mind, you know, I'm not completely blind. I do have some vision in certain things, but just walk up to me and shake my hand and think I'm going to know who you are. Number one, if I could look you in the face and I had all my vision, I probably wouldn't know who the hell you were anyway. Somehow, the names are always called the names, and so usually something funny, somebody will shake my hand, so you probably don't remember me, and I'll think about it for a little while, and I says, "Yeah, you're the guy that had a back injury for 15 years or something." And identify them that way. But just please, when you see me, please identify yourself so I know who the heck I'm talking to. Don't ask me for any money, put it John Baxter Athletic. Some other good news is there's a little bit of an idea that they're probably going to renovate the athletic training rooms a little bit. They're doing some fun, not we. I'm not doing anything. I'll probably donate $5 or something. But we're in the process of renovating those trainers have been there for a long time. They need to be dressed up a little bit more, made a little bit more efficient. Of course, Blaise is going to be in charge of that, and he's doing a wonderful job planning for that and making arrangements for it, and advising the administration what we need to do. And of course, I'll be 100% behind all that. You know, on the floor, when you walk across the floor, and it cracks in the floor so thick you trip over, it's time to do something about the floor. So we're going to do something about that first probably. But anyway, I want to stop for now. And again, I want to thank you, and I appreciate you all being here. It's a tremendous honor for me. I'm flabbergasted by the number of people that showed up, and I really appreciate you taking the time, spending the money and whatever. And don't forget the little charge cards you got around there. You can put some money in there if you'd like. John's actually.
Well, thank you, John. That was outstanding. It's been a wonderful evening. And, you know, it would not have been possible without the efforts of many. Mr. Mike Fox has spearheaded this. Mike, great job. And to all the volunteers that helped put this on, let's hear it for those folks here. And it would not be possible without the attendance of you. What a great turnout tonight. And I hope you've had a wonderful evening. It's been a great event. And obviously, we've raised a bunch of money for the John Baxter Emporia State University Athletic Training Scholarship Fund. That's what this is all about. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Give yourself a round of applause. Hope you've had a great evening. Good night.